So a beautiful place to take us as we begin the third week of a 7-week fall study series that is titled Braving the Wilderness. If you've been tracking with us, you realize that we are having a 7-week study based on a brand new book. It came out in mid-September by Dr. Brené Brown, B-R-E-N-E, Brené Brown, titled The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone, Braving the Wilderness. If you're not yet familiar with her work, I hope you will become familiar. She's got a TED Talk that came out a few years ago that just went absolutely positively viral and is one of the top 4 all-time viewed TED Talks, and it's about shame and vulnerability, very, very healing. It really transformed her life. She's a social scientist, and in a nutshell, had a major breakdown. Dark of the night, you know what I'm trying to say. I can't even say it, it's so bad. Dark of the night soul. Dark night of the soul. How many of you have had one? Oh, it's just horrible. And she had this kind of breakdown, which we know is always a breakthrough. It's a discovery. And it has really led her on a path, and through her writings to me, and when she's talking about belonging, what she's saying is it's living in the awareness of our common dignity and divinity. And you know, I believe if there's anything that will heal a life, a relationship, a family, a society, a world, it is to live in the awareness of our dignity and our divinity. And that's what this is all about, and the challenges that we grapple with. It's just real life stuff that we deal with. So she's a professor at a university in Houston, and a wonderful writer. So we're sharing, and today is week 3, which takes us to the first of 4 practices. She calls these practices of belonging, and I would call them spiritual practices, that when you really begin to practice these, they lead us into this practice, this awareness, this present scene. You see, a practice is really, it doesn't mean that we're not there yet. It means that we're presencing something, that we're presencing it. So it's about a spiritual practice. And today, week 1 of week 4, the title is, People Are Hard to Hate, Close Up, Move In. People are hard to hate, close up, move in. And so before we delve down into the many layers of that, I want to introduce you to her definition of spirituality. Would you give me the first slide? So she describes spirituality as recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us. And that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. The next quote is a quote by Gandhi that I love. It says, "If you don't find God in the next person you meet, it's a waste of time looking further." That's the good news and the bad news. And then she says it like this: "If our faith asks us to find the face of God in everyone we meet, well, then that should include the politicians, the media, the strangers on Twitter with whom we most violently disagree. When we desecrate their divinity, we desecrate our own, and we betray our faith." You see, it's about living and being passionate, but not crossing that line of human dignity. That I'm not going to demonize you. I'm not going to desecrate your divinity, because in so doing, I'm doing the same thing to myself. This is a very scriptural teaching in the Bible. 1 John 2:19, it says, "If anyone claims I am living in the light, but hates a brother or sister, that person is still living in darkness." It doesn't mince words. You know, I think A Course in Miracles, I believe it comes from, says, you cannot hold your brother or sister in the darkness and hold yourself in the light. And so this is really about creating an environment where we are continually seeking to keep the light turned on within, to keep is it Motel 6 that says the light is, we leave the light on for you? Somebody, it's keeping the light on and the awareness of that light. But we grapple with how to do that. I was reading about a Sunday school teacher. She was sharing different stories about her years as a teacher, and she said one particular Sunday, the lesson was on to love your neighbor, love your God, love yourself, love everybody. And so she was teaching the class of little children, love, love, love. Love your neighbor, love your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your family. Love those people that you like, and you have to love those people you don't like. Love the people you know. You have to love those people you don't know. It's about love, love, love. And so then she said, so this week, how are we going to treat our brothers and sisters? What does the Bible teach us about that? And one little boy raised his hand and she said, yes. He says, thou shalt not kill. And I like that because I think we can get that one. It's like, okay, I get thou shalt not kill. I can do that. I can go through the week and manage that one. Now, this thing about love everybody, that's a stretch, would you say? And so the place that we're in is there's some space between thou shalt not kill, we just are going to let them live, and being able to hold them in our heart and love. Would you agree there's some space in between there? And what this study is about is it's about that space. It's about knowing the space within us and how to cultivate a space that knows how to be when we're in that place, of literally, just thinking it really might be better if that person just fell off the face of the earth. And that, anger and hatred and the things that we're very capable of feeling. We're wired to feel these things because we're emotional beings. And so rather than trying to suppress them, we have to own them consciously, because if we're not owning them, can you see that they're owning us? If we're not taking responsibility for them, then they're unconsciously using us to act out. And that's what this week is about when we talk about people are hard to hate close up. So move in. What does that mean, move in? There's several layers of this. The first layer, and really every layer, in a sense, has to do with our judgments and our justifications around that judgment. Anybody ever done you wrong and you had lots of evidence for it? I mean, it was really a wrong. Judgments and our justifications. And so that's why all the sacred texts say, judge not. But we still do differentiate, and there's wise judgment. So it's learning about how to navigate these waters. So people are hard to hate close up, move in. It reminds me of a story in Seattle. It's called the Sounder. There's sound transit that runs between Tacoma, Washington, and Seattle, Washington. It goes back and forth several times throughout the day. A lot of commuters take that. And so there's a transit that leaves at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's very often the same people getting on that particular little train because they're going to work. And so the people get on, and it's usually very, very quiet because people are still trying to sleep a little bit, or they're reading the paper with their cup of coffee. Well, one particular morning, when the 6 o'clock train loaded, a man got on the train with his 3 children. And no sooner had they left and take off, and it is absolute chaos. It's not the normal quiet. It's not the normal I can hold my coffee and read, because the man is sitting there totally not paying attention to the kids, who are just 3 kids running, screaming, one's crying. You can just feel and sense. It's like, it's the last thing you want at 6 o'clock in the morning. So there's a man sitting beside the guy who's just not paying attention, and he says, sir, your kids are really disruptive. And the guy's like, and the guy really is like, you don't even notice? Like, your kids, they're like knocking over people's coffee. Could you do something? And the man said, I'm just in shock. He said, last night my wife got ill and we took her to the hospital, and he said, we're just leaving right now. And he said, my wife didn't make it. I said, I don't even know what to do. Now, everybody around that heard that switched just like that, just like you did. Because the people that were irritated and angry all of a sudden, now we're filled with compassion. Like, oh my God, how terrible. Can I help you with one of your children? Do you need anything? Could we? Now these people are, we would call it ministering to him. They're trying to help him because some more information was there. Can you see how that made a difference? And you can literally feel it. Another situation, a waitress told a story about she worked the breakfast shift in a very busy cafe where people would wait in line almost every day for this popular, I think it's like Biscuit Head. Anybody been to Biscuit Head in Nashville? You always got to wait there unless you get late, unless you're right there before they close. But people would come in, and so they would serve and try to get them out, and this waitress comes over to a table, and it's a man who's got wet paper bags. He's smelly. He doesn't look like he's had a shower in weeks. He's got coins spread out on the table. And so she tries to be patient. May I help you? And he says, yeah, what's your breakfast special? How much is it? And she tells him, and it's $7. And he looks and starts playing with his money, and she's like, And he says, well, how much is a sandwich? And he says, sir, it depends on the kind of sandwich. Here, you look at the menu, and I'll be back. And she just walks off and leaves and helps a few other people, and she comes back, and the menu's still not open, and he's still fumbling with his stuff. And he says, well, how much is an egg and bacon sandwich? And she said, $4. He looks some more, and she's totally frustrated, in a hurry. Well, how much is just an egg and some toast? $3. Okay, I'll have that. So she gets his egg and toast and water and serves him, doesn't come back to see him the whole time. She's waiting on her other customers, but she's annoyed because he's taking up space. He's holding this table. He's taking his sweet time. Finally, she notices he's up paying his bill, and he's out the door. And she comes over to quickly clean up his plate, and she stops dead in her tracks because she sees 3 quarters, 2 dimes, and a nickel, $1. And she thinks, if he had have spent that dollar on himself, he could have got the $4 sandwich. But he took me into consideration. He wanted to have enough money for a tip. And she said, I felt about that big because he made space for me in his heart the whole time, and I held him in judgment the whole time. Can you think about times that you've done that? That it's easy to judge people, to label people, to get caught up in our annoyances and to act on those things. But people are harder to hate close up, to move in. That when you really get to understand the person and what's going on, typically there's some sort of connection. I use the word typically because some people appear to make it easy to hate them. No matter how close you get, let's just talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to stand here and say all people are hard to hate close up. If you move in, you'll live happily ever after. There's a depth to this teaching. And so the truth of the matter is that there are people that have ill-intended intentions. There are individuals that no matter how much you try to get close to them, no matter how much you try to understand them, no matter how much you try to love them, they want no part of it. And so the question is, so what do we do here? Well, that's where our judgments and justification come in, and that's why we have the sacred text, again, whether it's any tradition. If you look at Christianity, Jesus says, I am telling you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on the cheek, offer the other cheek as well. If anyone grabs your coat, let him have your shirt as well. Anyone can love those who love them. I am telling you, love those who despise you. Ugh, that's hard. The Buddha, in Buddhist text, it says it this way, happily shall I live without hostility among the hostile. Among the hostile, live without hostility. You see, it's acknowledging that there are people that have ill intentions. It's acknowledging that there are people that have untamed hostility. Let us live in joy, free of hatred, among the spiteful. Among the spiteful, let us live without hatred. Oh, let us live in joy, we who are free of hindrances. Let us be like the radiant ones who are nurtured with love. That's not easy. And you can kind of go back to the little Sunday school boy. It's like, yeah, thou shalt not kill my sister or brother, but love them. How do we love those people? How do we find our way to doing that? Brené Brown shares a story. Would you show us the picture here? Some of you, I'm sure, will remember seeing this. It was a Facebook post that went viral, basically. And it's from a man who, in November of 2015, Anton Liris is this gentleman's name on the right. His wife, Helen, was killed by terrorists in Paris. Remember Barcelona? His wife was killed when that happened. And this is what he wrote. He sat down on Facebook and he wrote, "On Friday night, you stole the life of an exceptional being, the love of my life, the mother of my son, but you will not have my hate. I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know you. You are dead souls. If that God for whom you blindly kill made us in his image, every bullet in my wife's body will have been a wound in his heart. So no, I will not give you the satisfaction of hating you. That is what you want. But to respond to your hate with anger would be to yield to the same ignorance that made you what you are. You want me to be scared and see my fellow citizens through suspicious eyes, to sacrifice my freedom for security. You have failed. I will not change. There are only two of us now, my son and myself, but we are stronger than all the armies of the world. Anyway, I don't have more time to waste because I must go see Melville, who is waking up from his nap. He is only 17 months old. He will eat his snack as he does every day. Then we will play as we do every day. And all his life, this little boy will defy you by being happy and free because you will not have his hate either." Isn't that a powerful, powerful sentiment to give back? Booker T. Washington said, "I will allow no man to belittle my soul by making me hate him." You see, hate is, we all have the capacity to feel hate. I think if we don't realize that, we're in danger. A Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Kailash Satyarthi, says, "Anger is within each of you, and I will share a secret for a few seconds. That is, if we are confined in the narrow shells of ego and the circles of selfishness, then the anger will turn out to be hatred, violence, revenge, destruction. But if we're able to break the cycles and the circles, then the same anger could turn into a great power. We can break the circles by using our inherent compassion and connect with the world through compassion to make this world a better place. The same anger can be transformed into something good." And so it begins with recognizing that we're wired to get angry. It's because we get angry because of an injustice or some sort of hurt. It's a natural, normal thing, just like fear. These are meant to inform us, but they're not meant to kidnap us. They're not meant to cause us to go to a place where we cross that line of dehumanizing another. May I always remember your dignity. May I always remember your divinity. May I always remember my dignity. May I always remember my divinity. It's about not crossing that line of losing sight of anyone's human dignity or divinity. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "When I am angry, I can pray well and preach well." Can you relate? It's like when you get fired up about something, it moves you. It moves you into passion. Gandhi said, "We should not be ashamed of anger. It's a very good and powerful thing that motivates us. But what we need to be ashamed of is the way that we abuse it." Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, Arun, tells the story about growing up as an Indian from India, growing up in South Africa. And he was mistreated because he was neither white nor black. South Africa was known for the whites and the blacks, and they were at war. And here he was, this little Indian kid. And so he said, "I was beaten up for not being black enough. I was beaten up for not being white enough." And he said, "I was beginning to develop such serious anger problems that his parents sent him to live with Gandhi in Gandhi's place." And he said that his grandfather, Gandhi, told him this. He said, "Anger is like electricity. It's just as powerful and just as useful, but only when we use it intelligently. It can be used to burn down the house, or it can be used to bring light to the whole house. So it's about bringing awareness and realizing that, yes, there are things going on in our world that if we don't get irritated, if we're not feeling some sense of anger and moral outrage, then there's something wrong with us, because there's something not right to bear witness to an injustice and not be moved to compassion, not be moved by that. But it calls us to be really accountable, to do daily work, to be in a daily practice of what am I doing with this? How am I responding? How am I using it? Am I working with it? And I'm also well aware that there are some injustices, some things that people have experienced. You may be in practice your whole life being in the willingness of letting that go. Do you hear what I'm saying? There are people that have experienced such atrocities that their whole life may be about being in that space of, I am willing to behold the dignity and divinity in this person. Help me. But it's in that space of being in the willingness that the miracle takes place. Because if we could just think our way to that place, if we could just quickly we like to be people that have recipes. Give me 3 steps and 4 affirmations, and I want my life to work perfectly. Can you relate? Give me those steps, give me those affirmations, and by God, it should work perfectly. Well, it's a practice. It's a daily practice of keeping our heart centered, keeping ourselves focused, being accountable for what's going on inside. And I literally use this image of, I place stuff on the curbside of my awareness so that the great I am, God, all that is, can recycle it. You see, when I don't know how to fix the world. I don't know how to transform some of the stuff that goes on inside of me. But I can look at it and say, wow, I don't want this to be driving me. I don't want this to create a wedge between me and any other person. Wow, I'm going to put it on the curbside of my psyche, and God, I'm asking you to transform it. And when the transformation begins to take place, that's when the miracle happens. That's when you begin to realize that there is a Holy Spirit. There is a power and a presence in me that is bigger than any part of me that is broken. It's bigger than any part of me that can be diminished. It's bigger than any part of me that can be hurt. That part of me can heal me, can restore me, can lift me. And can you then see how I'm creating my own inner environment so that then I can walk about the world and be a presence of peace, a presence of healing? Savannah was telling me about Sunday school, the first service we had children in Sunday school, and she said they were talking about the row, row, row your boat, gently down the stream. And really the main lesson for the children is, whose boat are you rowing? That it's my inner awareness. It's me and only me that can choose to love or choose to hate, how I'm going to show up. There's a teaching from the Dhammapada that I believe helps us get from, I won't kill anybody, but how do I love them? It says, all we experience is preceded by mind, led by mind, made by mind. Speak or act with a corrupted mind, and suffering follows as the wagon wheel follows the ox. Speak or act with a peaceful mind, and happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves. He abused me, attacked me, defeated me, robbed me. For those carrying ill will, such as this, hatred does not end. He abused me, attacked me, defeated me, robbed me. For those not carrying ill will, such as this, hatred ends. Hatred never ends through hatred. By non-hatred alone does it end. This is an ancient truth. You see, so often we rush to hatred never ends, hatred, only love can do that. And that is true, but then most of us feel like, yeah, but I don't have the love to do that yet. Well, the space between is called non-hatred. It's about cleaning it out. It's about keeping the space within our own being pure so that we don't go from anger to getting carried away. Have you ever watched yourself with some minor irritation, and before you know it, you were just all a mess? We call that a hot mess. You just have a basically meltdown. I don't know if any of you know Shala Catherine. She's an American Buddhist insight meditation teacher. She's a great teacher, and she told a story about herself a number of years ago when she was on a rain retreat in Thailand. If you know anything about Thailand, you know that there are seasons that are called the monsoon season. It rains constantly. She went to a 3-month retreat, and they literally call it the rain retreat because it's during the monsoon season. The place where she was staying in Thailand was very archaic, just very minimal conditions, incredibly overcrowded. And so she said, the conditions there, you're constantly trying to keep yourself from mildewing, that your clothes stay wet, everything stays wet, and it's like, so once a week she would wash her clothes, and men and women both went to this retreat, but the women were on one side of the river, the men were on the other. And the women, they had very little space where they could hang their laundry. They could string it under the rafters of the meditation hall. That's the only space the women were allowed to hang their laundry. So there would be strings and laundry everywhere. So one day she got up early, washed her clothes, and put her string and hung them there. She came back 3 or 4 hours later and did a double take because her clothes were not on her string. Somebody else's clothes were on her string, and her clothes, still wet, were thrown in a pile over to the side. Now she's at a mindfulness meditation treat. And she said, in the space of about 2 minutes, this is what happened. Who in the hell did that? And she thought, I'm going to pull down their clothes and put mine. And then she thought, okay, I hate this system. Why do women have to hang our laundry under the rafters to dry? Why can't it be out in the wind? This is stupid. And these conditions, how primitive they are. I mean, why are the women's laundry relegated here? How poorly they treat women in this monastery. I mean, and why they let it be overcrowded. And then think about the men over on the other side, they actually have a wood dryer because the monks live over there, and so they have a dryer that the men get to use. But oh no, the women's clothes are all under here. And this is a stupid place, and I hate this place, and I hate Thailand. Where's my passport? She said literally in the space of about 3 minutes, she went from being upset about wet laundry to wanting to leave Thailand. Now, we laugh and it is funny, but can you think about how that happens? How we just get kidnapped and carried away when these things happen. So it doesn't mean that there isn't some justification. I mean, it's really not right for somebody to come and do that. It's not right for a lot of people to do the things that they do. And so we're not talking about divorcing ourselves from accountability. As a matter of fact, we're talking about turning it up because we're talking about holding ourselves accountable too. Because I can't really hold you accountable for your actions if I'm stuck in judgment, if I'm stuck hating you, if I'm stuck with so much gunk inside. That's why the scripture says, get the log out of your eye before you can help see someone else how to get the little speck out of their eye. You see, it's about the world needs us. The world needs people to rise up and say, this is not right. It is not right that we have a health insurance mess to such an extent that people are dying unnecessarily. It is not right that we have this. It is not right that we have that. Now, we're going to have varying degrees about that, but we need to be able and willing to stand up for what is right for all people, not just a few, but for all. We need to be able to do that and never, ever cross that line of dehumanizing. Never, ever cross that line. Well, I forget that I hold you in dignity and I hold you in the light of divinity. Can you see the challenge there? And can you see that it's big enough that the only thing that can do it is the Spirit within us that is big enough to bridge any gap? Any gap. I want to show you a short video where Brené Brown talks about that, people are hard to hate, close up, move in. Requires us to be willing to speak up. Requires us to be willing to show up. Requires us to be willing to have candid conversations. And most of all, it requires us to be willing to say, wow, I am really disturbed inside. I'm really angry. I'm really frustrated. What are the underpinnings that are holding this anger in place? What are the underpinnings that are holding this hatred in place? What does it take to create an enemy and sustain the idea of an enemy? Do you realize we have to reinforce it daily, reinforce it minute by minute? What is it within me that is sustaining this? And so how do we hold ourselves accountable? Would you show us this short video?
So I think one of them is start having the conversations with your kids, with your neighbors, with your partner, with your colleagues. Start having the conversations. Don't go in as the teacher. Go in with curiosity and generosity. What do you think about what's going on? Questions like this is a great email I got. Someone wrote after the Facebook Live and said, I am so offended when people use the word white supremacist. I could barely get through your Facebook Live. But then when my husband came home, I said, I want you to watch this so we can talk about it. And so he watched it and he kind of shifted a lot and grunted. And this is a white couple and kind of probably mid-40s. And he said, well, what do you think? And he said, well, and then we just started talking about it. My 17-year-old son came home. We started talking about it. And we just started breaking it down and trying to figure out what we emotionally reacted to compared. If everyone did that, the world would be different in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is going to take 1 million acts of kindness and consciousness to change this. When you're at work and someone says a joke that's really anti-immigrant or anti-transgender, instead of laughing and walking away or just not saying anything, walking away, you just look and say, Jesus. I mean, you don't have to say, I'm really offended and these people are our brothers and sisters, because people can't hear that. You can say, Jesus, that's not funny. Or like, hey, dude, if you have to hurt other people, you're not that funny.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I mean, if 1 million of us did that, if 1 million people tomorrow just said, I don't really understand Black Lives Matter. I don't really get it. I want to try to understand it. I don't want to try to protect myself from it or defend against it. I just want to try to understand it. Maybe 200,000 may change their mind. Maybe 800,000 will keep the same opinion. But there will be a shift in the consciousness of the country.
Absolutely.
Just by asking the questions.
Yeah.
Just by asking the questions, a shift in the consciousness of our country. Are you willing to be a part of that? Richard, would you give me that song? When I had the pleasure of living in Hawaii, I learned that in the traditional Hawaiian culture, when every child is born, they're taught to see themselves as a bowl of light. That they are a bowl of light, a vessel of light. And the parents actually use a bowl to demonstrate this. And they say that as a part of life, things hurt you. People call you names. People do things. You get hurt. And the parent will drop a stone in the bowl. That says throughout the day, you're going to collect things that hurt you, that offend you, that upset you. You may hurt your own self. And they begin to drop things in that bowl. And the parent says, but can you see that by the end of the day, the bowl is so full of stones that the light is not easy to see. And so they teach the children, the term is called huli. You huli your bowl. It just means you turn it upside down. They teach the children that every day you must have a practice to empty the bowl, huli the bowl. You must have a practice to empty, to clean out. Jesus said, shake the dust off your feet, the residue, the things that have stuck on you, to empty them. Because if you don't, after a while, you forget that it ever was a light. There's so much hurt. There's so much stone that this is what we present. This is how we show up to the world. This week, the teaching, people are hard to hate close up, move in. It's multi-layered. It's about be willing to have conversations. Seek to understand. Seek to understand the other person's perspective. Sometimes that will happen and sometimes it won't. And when it doesn't, really be willing to move in. Okay, where am I collecting things that are obscuring my own light? Where am I holding on to ideas and things that are obscuring your light? Holy Spirit, help me empty that. I don't know how to do it. Do you get the power of I don't know how to do it? That's where the real healing comes in. Because I don't just say, well, I don't know how to do it. Que sera, sera, I'm going to go be mean to somebody. No, I don't know how to do it, but I know that it's for me to do it. So heal me at depth. Change me. Move within that I may create that inner landscape. People are hard to hate close up. Move in. Never lose sight of the dignity and divinity that I am, that you are, that we all are. There's a song that's going to lead us into a meditative prayer that says, open the eyes of my heart that I may know this. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Now, love. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. I'm going to ask you to close your physical eyes. And with your imagination to see, open the eyes of my heart. And I don't just mean my physical organ heart that's in my body. I mean the heart of all being. I mean, open the eyes of my heart that I may be an avenue for the heart of all creation, for the one to see through me. I realize that I am a being that is physical and spirit. I live in space and time. I live with incredible limitations. There are many things that could in an instant extinguish my life, my physical life. And I live in the awareness that I am spirit, infinite, that all that I am is an expression of all that is. And it is in the understanding of the fullness of who I am that I'm constantly drawing on the greater I am, the infinite, to heal me at depth, see through me, see beyond any injustice, see beyond any hurt. I choose to be that space. I choose to stay fully connected, even in my discomfort, even in my disagreeing. In times if I feel disgust and anger or fear, I choose to use it. Help me understand what's going on inside of me and help me understand what's mine to do. That I may be a light unto myself. That I may be a light unto my world. Heal me at depth. That my presence may be a healing. Use me at depth. Set your intention to be healed at depth. be used as a presence of love and light. I'm willing to allow the healing to happen. I'm willing to believe that something else can take place inside of me. I'm willing to realize that just like the master teachers, it is possible to tend to the wound without becoming wounded. The Buddha said, if you invite guests to your house and you prepare for them fine food and delicacies, and you offer it to them, and yet they do not receive it, to whom does it belong? If someone offers you their hurt, their hatred, their rejection, and yet you do not take it on, to whom does it belong? Give us the wisdom and the courage to stay grounded in our own dignity, our own divinity. Give us the courage and the wisdom to stay grounded in the awareness of every other person's innate dignity and divinity. This is where I choose to live, that I may be a light unto myself and unto this world. I invite you to think about anything that you're holding on your heart, any individuals you may be holding in prayer, situation, circumstance, to speak them into this sacred space. We speak the name of leaders, political leaders, systematic leaders, religious leaders, household leaders. May we remember our dignity and our divinity. And when we're in the presence of someone who can't seem to find it for themselves, may we hold it in our heart. Open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Open me, love. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. I want to be you. I'm going to invite you to stand. I want you to take the namaste that says, I behold the divinity in you. And whether you close your eyes and imagine someone that you're holding this for, or that you want to be able to hold it for, to see their divinity and their dignity. We're going to sing this again, and you can close your eyes and sing it to someone like that, or you can open your eyes and just turn around Walk around if you want to connect. Open the eyes. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. Open me, love. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Now, if you'll open your eyes and look around, open the eyes, love. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be you. Now would you stretch? And to say, oh, this is stretching me. Oh, this is stretching me. Now think of an area in your life. Oh, this is stretching me. Are you willing to be stretched? Okay, half of you are. Are you willing to be stretched? Yes. Truly. Are you willing to be stretched? Yes. And so it is. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to be